BFA programs in general, but specifically BFA programs for stage management, can be some of the most demanding degree paths that you can find in a university. I was fortunate enough to catch up with some current students and recent graduates from across the country to talk to them about ways that you can make the most out of your BFA stage management program. My name is Kent, and this is your half-hour call.
Good afternoon, folks. This is your half-hour call. Half hour to the top of the show, half hour.
All right. Hi, friends. Thank you so much for joining me today. If we can get started by just everyone introducing yourselves and telling us a little bit about where you went to school and how you picked that program.
I'm Gavin Yehle, and I recently just graduated in the spring of 2019 from the University of Utah with a BFA in both acting and stage management. So I didn't start officially as a stage management student until like halfway through my sophomore year, and then I took 5 years to complete the whole program.
I'm Cassie, McKay. I'm from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. I originally chose Point Park due to it ended up all said and done being the cheapest option, and at the time the conservatory style training really appealed to me. Hopefully I would love to work mainly as a New York-based stage manager, working in the Broadway area and also possibly national tours. So I decided to transfer to the University of Central Florida. Hi, I'm Lauren. I am a senior at the University of Central Florida. I chose the University of Central Florida quite honestly because it was in my backyard. I grew up in Orlando, Florida, and I lived 10 minutes away from there. So even though I applied to about 10 out-of-state schools, most up north, I decided that it wasn't my top choice as far as where I thought I wanted to go. But now that I've been here for 3 years, going on 4, I realized that UCF was the perfect place for me.
My name is Ashani. I am a senior at Western Carolina University in Cullowhee, North Carolina. So I'm getting a BA in stage and screen with a concentration in stage management and directing. But I started out in the BFA musical theater program, and I transferred into the BA program second semester of my sophomore year, and since then has been working as a stage manager in the program. I really want to eventually, the long-term goal is to be the resident PSM at a larger regional theater because, you know, I like having a car. I like kind of the living life and not the hustle and bustle life of New York. So that's kind of where I'm looking at for post-grad plans.
What was the biggest surprise during your first year?
It was the sheer shock of how much work I had to do. I don't know if this is the same across all high schools, but I had a significantly less amount of work in high school than I did my freshman year of college. I was taking 17 credit hours my first semester in college, and I was working around the clock, and I slept very little that semester, and it was a shock to me.
When I was still in the performance program was definitely the culture shock of Western. Demographic-wise, there's 6% of African-American students on campus, and it's 80% Caucasian, so it was definitely adjusting to that. I'm from Charlotte, so getting out of kind of the city life and being used to having a very diverse theater scene to coming here was the very big surprise for me.
When I applied to 11 schools because I didn't know where I stood in terms of the playing field when applying. I didn't know if I was at the top, at the bottom, it's somewhere in the middle. So when I got in, it was a lot of like realizing kind of my place in the program in terms of like where my background was. It was just like figuring out my place. Like it took me about a couple weeks to kind of find my stride in terms of like the crowd to kind of hang out with.
I didn't really have any huge surprises. And I think a large part of that is because I was really sort of slowly eased into the BFA stage management program, what with starting with being in youth theater and being on campus, going into that program and already knowing campus and having walked around campus for like the last, I don't know, 8 years before even starting going to college. I think more so it was like a weirdness of like being in the same state but like not living in the same place anymore, and like figuring out how to not live at home.
Have you been able to have a part-time job?
I have 2 this semester, and I pretty much had 1 every other year besides this year. But for Western, there are very specific jobs that you have to be able to have, whether you're an actress or a stage manager. If you're someone who's involved in the rehearsal process 24/7, like mainly just the actors and stage managers are, you have to have jobs that like fit. So you can't be off-campus jobs really. So I worked in our dean of the whole college's office last year, and then I work at a coffee shop. It's not Starbucks, because I would literally fall apart working at Starbucks. So it's a cute little like Christian-owned coffee house that's on our campus. It's kind of harder to keep them because those jobs obviously don't need a lot of people staff. So like once they have hired for the year, then you pretty much aren't working unless main stages are over, or you have to like work around that. So the little gap of time you do have to, breathe, do homework, go to sleep, you will go to another job. So I'm lucky that I have these jobs that fit very well, but it takes up that extra time I would have to just, not be doing anything.
So at Point Park, they have it kind of structured with their shop and the various departments within the theater. And because it was on campus and because it was in the theater department, I was pretty much going from class to a 2-hour shift to then class to another 2-hour shift, back and forth. So a lot of times I was getting up at 7 a.m., getting breakfast, going to class or going to work because the paint shop opened at 9, and I'd be in rehearsal as late as almost midnight some nights.
I also had a on-campus job. The head of the stage management program has positions open for production management assistants. So we would help with building out the schedule, or updating the class and rehearsal schedule in the online calendar system. And also because I was working for the stage management teacher, she knew exactly what my schedule was and exactly what I was going through. And so if I was in tech, she would totally understand if I just didn't come in.
Just like Gavin, I have been working in the audition office at my university, and that is only 4 hours a week, so I can very easily fit that into my schedule. But my first year, I thought that I could do it all, and I got a job at Insomnia Cookies, and my shifts were 8 p.m. to 3:30 a.m. So I would do a full day of school and then go to rehearsal and then do work until 3:30 a.m. But after about 2 months, I quickly learned that it was wearing me down and I needed to quit. But the most successful job that I had was last year. I worked at an escape room right across from my university. You use a lot of stage managery skills as well. So that was actually really fun. I highly recommend working at an escape room.
What's some of the best experiences you've had, the most memorable things that you're going to take with you for the rest of your career?
I was able to shadow the stage manager on the Miss Saigon tour. It was kind of that moment where I was able to be backstage and be in the moment and realize this is an attainable thing. You can do this.
Just the environment itself and being able to make the mistakes and learn how to do everything, and having my cast members instill the trust in me was probably one of my best experiences. It's just I feel like I have it kind of differently because I am coming from the musical theater program here, but it's kind of reinventing, if that makes sense, who I already was on campus, because I have to get my friends to look at me as this leadership figure when I was just singing and auditioning with them. But at the same time, already being a POC stage manager, I didn't want to I don't really guess I live up to the stereotypes that we're given as SMs, we're just mean and we yell at people. But at the same time, I don't want to be a pushover because I am a stage manager coming from a performance program.
At the University of Central Florida, we are able to take a show, a full-length musical, to our Orlando Union touring house, the Dr. Phillips Center, and we get to tech and put up the show in 3 days. And I got to take Titanic the musical, which was a cast of 55. We had 4 professors, we had a kid, a 3-story set. It was giant. It was an incredible experience, and we got to work with union people and IOTC members, and it was really life-changing. That solidified my love for stage managing.
The not so great experiences have been like people, but the best experiences have been people. That was the best thing for me about it. And then like the relationships that you make with your fellow students and others, especially in the stage management program, are just like something that I don't think you can kind of get anywhere else.
So on the flip side of that, what are some of the challenges that you've faced in your programs or just in your transition to college in general?
When you're in high school, you think it's the biggest thing in the world. And you're like, everybody loves my high school. Everybody wants to go here. It's going to be great. Like, nobody cares once you graduate high school. Like, not one person. So I was coming in just like, well, I, invented musical theater. Like, I'm that one, Broadway bound. And then you just kind of have a reality check when you come to college. You're like, oh, so there are a ton of people who are good at this. Okay, that's great. So I think just being able to kind of readjust to like the new life I created once I did switched out was a challenge. But again, like I said earlier, it was also one of my favorite things about it.
I feel like this industry as a whole doesn't do a great job of like confirming that you're good at what you do.
Coming from something where you're used to performing and like this applause means I'm doing great, or this silence means I'm not doing so great. Like you kind of don't get that validation. Once you get out there professionally, I kind of don't think that's where it's going to be. You're not going to get a pat on the back for doing what you're supposed to be doing,
I think also sort of going off of what Ashani said, sort of the like learning to not take problems with the show or like notes personally. And I am also the sort of person that is like really hard on myself, and it was nice to like have a professor that could say, you're really hard on yourself, stop it, it's fine, like this is one thing you need to learn, figuring out how much time you need for you versus how much time you need for school and work, I think is also a big challenge and was a big challenge for me. And for anyone out there, oh my God, take care of your gen eds early. Take them your freshman year. Do
while
it.
Everything's
oh my
online.
God.
Take your gen eds while everything's online.
Yes,
do it. Take your gen eds now.
I have this thing where I don't want to let anybody down. Like that is just something that like if I let somebody down, like I will tear myself apart about it. Like I was just trying my best and being able to kind of accept that like you're doing your best.
When I came into the program freshman year, I was a performer in high school. I had never done a lick of stage management. I barely knew what it was. I felt like I was playing catch up because I was the only person in my grade who hadn't stage managed in college, and everyone else, or in high school, and everyone else kind of knew what they were doing already. And I was like learning all of these basic concepts, but it's more of a mental thing that I have to be like, okay, if you're going to make this mistake, make it hard, like give it your all,
And I have bad news. It doesn't end when you graduate either. You'll feel like you're faking it. I'll let you know when I stop feeling like I'm faking it. Sometimes I still feel like I'm an actor that's acting like a stage manager instead of an actual stage manager. If you had a magical time machine and you could go back in time and say one thing to yourself as a high school senior before getting into all of college, what advice would you give yourself?
Put yourself out there and try to be in this program that you're so unfamiliar with, because it will work out.
When I was looking at schools, I was really hung up on the fact that I wanted to be in the city because for school, because that's where I wanted to work. I would love to tell my past self, like, you don't need to be in the city to be able to have the training to feel confident to be able to end up working in the city.
I guess I mean, as a senior, I really was super lazy. I applied 3 different places, and I don't know, I kind of wish that I had put a little bit more work into it. I mean, I think it all sort of worked out very fortuitously, where I ended up in a good program and one that I felt good in and was not very expensive. I don't know. Also then sort of on the flip side of that, it doesn't matter nearly as much as you think it does. And so, like, if you put yourself out there after graduating and you're like, you do the work regardless of the school that you go to and the formal training that you have, you can make it.
But I will start off asking 17-year-old Ashani a question. Do you love working in theater, or do you want to be in musical theater? Because I think that was the biggest scope of my high school experience. I would get in high school, senior year, Ashani, also to get away from the friend group she was around, so I could allow myself to remember that, because the friend group I surrounded myself with senior year, they were primarily, it's BFA or die. Like, I have to go to the biggest programs, I have to have the big college audition process, and so naturally I just told I felt like a failure because I didn't want those things, and everybody's journey is different. I'm not going to find someone who's going through the exact same thing.
I think this almost goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. A lot of typical actor traits go very well in stage managing, like, you know, the voice that can catch a room very quickly, can hold a room, being able to relate person to person, almost understanding the actor's role because you've been in that position, like, really helps. It's helped me as a stage manager. I think actors might just make the best stage managers.
On that note, any final thoughts for our audience of future stage management majors?
Life in college, like, it is a big adjustment, and first year is tough, like, both physically and mentally. You know, you have to do what's right for you. You have to take the time and do what's right for you.
But definitely going with an open mind, because just like Cassie said, like, if I was looking at 18-year-old me here in Color Week 3 years ago, this week I would have laughed at you if you told me I was going to be a stage manager right now. Like, I literally would have laughed in your face. So definitely take every experience in college and basically live up to it and just be open to the change, and don't be scared of it.
Don't try and like fit yourself into a cookie cutter. Make the program what you want it to be for you.
Lean on your classmates, lean on your friends.
On the flip side, though, do know everyone is not your friend. Do not confide in everyone. It is okay to have acquaintances. It is okay to have associates.
Don't be afraid to ask for help. And I think that's a lesson that I wish I had learned sooner. Yeah, we want to create a good community of people.
And speaking of awesome communities of people, thank you all so much for being on the show today. I appreciate you guys taking the time to do this. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed it. My name is Kent, and this has been your half-hour call. Do you have a question or an idea for a video? If you do, send me an email at askhalfhourcall@gmail.com. That's askhalfhourcall@gmail.com.